and let us all do we can to build a better future. We return back to our good friend AOC. 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 So AOC, why are we talking about AOC? Well, AOC's got a lot of problems. She's struggling. She's got some issues because, folks, it hasn't been discussed about why she hasn't gone back to the border while Biden has been president. Now, we all remember her sad face. Remember that face? This face right here. She was yelling, shaking the fence, even though that wasn't a detention facility. I'm just saying, but boy, oh boy, AOC sure can act. And no, I'm not being mean because I want to date her. No. But it does call in some questions. For example, again, I want to pull this video here. Shout out again to Case Study QB. Be sure to follow him on Phoenix, aka Twitter, because I'm not going to call Twitter X. No, we're calling it Phoenix. All right, that's what we're going to do. So let's play this video.
There was an interview with the New York Times last week where New York Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, another colleague of yours, other side, was asked why she hasn't visited the border while President Biden's been in office. So she dodged the question, basically. She said, well, this is something that we're actively planning on. What I have done is tours of our New York area facilities. Is that enough of a response from a fellow congresswoman who is sitting with you and watching what's happening on the Texas border in particular to say, well, we might go, but I'm going to the migrant facilities, so that's okay?
No, AOC and all of our Democrat colleagues are absolutely shameless in their handling of the immigration issue. Obviously,
yes, and we're going to be going a little bit more detail into the immigration issue because AOC, last I checked, you are a representative in this little city. None of you heard of it. It's just a little city called New York City. And turns out Eric Adams, well, he's just struggling. He is just struggling with some ongoing problems. And AOC is, has she tweeted about it? I'll let you decide.
It's like they want the open borders. That's an intentional policy. And now they're seeing the results of it. You have big cities, her city, New York City. You've got Chicago, Boston, these other blue city havens and sanctuary jurisdictions who are now crying out to the federal government for assistance. They're demanding federal taxpayer dollars be sent to them to handle the housing and the health care and the security of all these illegals who are flooding their towns now. AOC is getting what they asked for. And the fact that she hasn't been to the border under the Biden administration to show us all of her crying videos and everything tells you exactly what this is about. It's a political scheme. They want to flood the country with illegals because at the end of the day, they want to turn them into voters. They're already doing that in municipal elections in Manhattan, and they want to spread that around the country. So I think the American people have had enough of this. I think they see the crisis it's created. It's a catastrophe now. And we need the Democrats to come on board with us and demand that the policies be changed.
A catastrophe that has spread across the country to some of the most beautiful cities in the country, and certainly everything on the ground has changed. Congressman Mike Johnson, Congressman, thank you for being here.
So what's going on in New York City? Because AOC, this is your backyard. Immigrants could destroy New York, says the mayor. So mass immigration will destroy New York City unless something is done about it. Mayor Eric Adams has warned, speaking at a meeting in Manhattan. Adams said the city was being overwhelmed by migrants from all over the world and faces a $12 billion budget deficit. So here's the thing. Why is there a migration crisis? Why is there an immigrant crisis south of the border? Why are there kids in cages? Well, again, this took decades for it to build up. First, we have to address one of the major fundamental problems of why all these immigrants are coming south of the border, why they're heading that way. It is because of, again, our own foreign policies that are impacting into Central and South America, coups and regime change wars that we do in these countries, dictators that we support. And look, if you don't think that we don't support dictators, you really need to look in how nefarious the State Department and CIA can be, okay? I wish we lived in a world where, hey, Saturday morning cartoon, USA freedom, everybody's a good guy. Guess what? That's not the real world. The real world is brutal. The world is cursed. Those samurai movies had a point. The world is cursed. There's nothing but brutality. We have helped contribute to that. Our government, our politicians have helped contribute to that, to the rise of dictators, coups, and civil wars. Also, the war on drugs, which led to the creation of the cartel. You think we'd learn our lesson the first time with prohibition? I mean, how do you think the mafia came into existence? Because, oh, you just want to be bad guys? No, Mr. and Mrs. America wanted the booze. Who's buying the drugs? Mr. and Mrs. America, okay? That's what's happening. We have an opioid crisis. Thank you, Johnson & Johnson, for doing that, by the way. You bastards. And so because of this, you have the rise of cartels, you have the rise of gangs, you have communities being destroyed, people being threatened. And so a reasonable person's going to look around and say, hey, it's not safe here. We need to get out of here and quick. And so everyone's being displaced, and you have this crisis south of the border. And this took decades, and we could thank our fantastic friends in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party for allowing this nightmare to continue on. That's why there's a crisis. And again, he goes on to say, never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. Oh, welcome to the party, pal. Adams explained at a town hall type meeting on Wednesday evening, this issue will destroy New York City. The most populous U.S. city is taking in more than 1,000 migrants a month, according to Adams. While most of the newcomers in previous years originated from Central and South America, the more recent arrivals included Russian speakers coming through Mexico and people from Western Africa, Adams said. So here's his speech that he spoke to. Again, it's not in its clearest of way, but again, it's 2 minutes and 20 seconds. And he is panicking. And I spoke to a person who does live in New York City, and she told me, yeah, it's pretty bad. And they don't have a plan.
No support. And let me tell you something, New Yorkers. Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month. One time we were just getting Venezuela. Now we're getting Ecuador. Now we're getting Russian speaking coming through Mexico. Now we're getting Western Africa. Now we're getting people from all over the globe have made their minds up that they're going to come through the southern part of the border and come into New York City. And everyone is saying it's New York City's problem. Every community in this city is going to be impacted. We had a $12 billion deficit that we're going to have to cut. Every service in this city is going to be impacted. All of us. And so I say to you, as I turn it over to you, this is some of the most educated, some of the most knowledgeable, probably more of my commissioners and deputy commissioners and chiefs live in this community. So as you asked me a question about migrants, tell me what role you played. How many of you organized to stop what they're doing to us? How many of you were part of the movement to say, we're seeing what this mayor is trying to do and they're destroying New York City? It's going to come to your neighborhoods.
So here's the thing. I remember the phrase sanctuary cities first happening, and Harlan's Media, we covered way back in 2018 how nonviolent migrants were being deported out of the Gary Chicago International Airport. And the buses were halted. No one got deported, and the buses drove on through Chicago and went through O'Hare. And I remember Daniel and I coming back here, and I think it was Daniel who said, yeah, it was Daniel who said it. He turned to me and said, hey, Kit, you know this sanctuary city thing? It's all BS. They don't believe in it. And I then proposed this question. I was like, Dan, you think if it ever came down to it, that these cities would ever follow through with them, with these Democrats, especially these politicians, ever follow through was actually being sanctuary cities and helping out the people. He said it's either they're going to do a terrible job and deport them, or they're not going to do anything at all, or they're going to be overwhelmed. And I said, yeah, I agree. And I remember talking to an activist about that. And I said, hey, look, these politicians saying that Chicago and New York are going to be sanctuary cities and good bastions for people, like, be prepared for the knife in the back. And I remember being told that I was a racist. Hey, heads up, these politicians might screw you over. Racist! Racist!
All of us are going to be impacted by this. I said it last year when we had 15,000. I'm telling you now, with 110,000, the city we knew we're about to lose. And we're all in this together, all of us. Staten Island is saying, send them out to Manhattan. Manhattan is saying, send them out to Queens. Queens is saying, send them out to Brooklyn. No, it's not the game we can play. Open the floor up.
I also want to pull up this video here as well. Not good. It's not good indeed. Let's play it.
To happen, where does that start?
You're absolutely right. And every New Yorker right now is watching. New Yorkers understand how serious this is, that we've been welcoming asylum seekers, and we're reminded what kind of a city New York City is rooted in the values of care, compassion. And as anybody comes into our city, the Statue of Liberty reminds us that this is a city where you belong. This is a city where you can seek refuge and dignity. And so right now, as we understand the scale of how many more folks escaping violence, escaping economic destitution and war will come to New York City, every leader has to step up. And
Where does it start, though?
The finger pointing has to end. Every level of government has responsibilities. With the city council, we've been pushing our mayor to invest in $70 million in full legal representation. Asylum seekers have 1 year from the moment they get to New York City to apply for asylum. Mm-hmm. That application process is arduous. It is tedious. It is years long.
So what's the status with the first crop of migrants that arrived last year?
So it's a little confusing because the scope of full representation hasn't been there. Not every single person who has arrived has been able to successfully match with legal services to start their application. And then after 150 days of applying for asylum, they can then apply for work authorization, which we know there's a backlog.
I want the solution needs to.
So again, I played that because so far, AOC doesn't have an answer. AOC is not showing up. Eric Adams, the mayor, is being overwhelmed. These Democrats are failing to follow through with their promises. Daniel and I, we talked to a lot of these activists and organizers between 2016 and 2020. Now, there are only a handful of activists that I've seen firsthand that I would call the dauntless few that actually could and will actually have follow-through actions. I know Misty, she's one of them. Rome, he's been doing some great work, But the vast majority of people that we spoke to from 2016 through 2020, whenever we did bring up criticism about Democrats or progressive lawmakers in Congress, we were either cast aside, we were called racist or misogynist or all this stuff. And all we're saying is, hey, look, they better follow through. Otherwise, there will be a growing pushback. There will be anger. There will be violence. There will be people who will be angry, and righteously so. These politicians want to play their games. And all the while, we're being screwed over. And again, this burning resentment will build up. I want to pull up this video here. Just a regular video. Somebody walking through New York City, but I'm seeing more videos like this all over Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. There's an anger brewing, and the Democrats and AOC don't get it. Hey, Bernie, Listen, your movement, well, turns out people don't want to hear what you got to say. AOC, what kind of act are you going to put up? Because you need to do a town hall with your people, and you need to hear the people speak to you, because there's something wrong here.
I ain't gonna lie, New York City, we should have voted for Curtis Sliwa. Real shit. Because we got homeless here in New York City, sleeping on park benches. We got the opioid epidemic out here. You know what I'm saying? We got gang violence, black on black crime going crazy in the city. Motherfuckers ain't got no job opportunities, no factories here in America helping people build, none of that shit, right? Like, so you mean to tell me we got a black mayor, right, that's fighting for people's rights, other people's rights who ain't even from this fucking country, and we over here starving and dying in the streets over here? Something wrong with that. Then I guess them crackers done put pressure on his ass, cause now he talking that, we don't have enough room and 60 days in the shelter. Man, Adams, wasn't you the one saying that we gotta help? It's American to help everybody, when America don't even help Americans.
It's a crazy world we live in. Eric Adams doesn't know. And see, the thing is, all this talk about being a sanctuary city, all this progressive talk is going to blow up in Democrats' face. And the thing is, if I were a person named first name Donald, last name Trump, and let's say he walks out of this whole thing in Atlanta, Georgia, do you have any idea what kind of firestorm the Democrats are going to go through? It's going to be madness and insanity all around. So AOC, go ahead and put up another act. She missed her calling of being an actress in Hollywood, but oh, can you imagine how insufferable she would be then? You're not allowed to watch my movie. That's what you would probably say.